having it earlier in the meeting, you may not get that.
But you would have to, so if you listen to, how what's being proposed, Rebecca would want you to have already filled out a piece of paper that says what your future agenda item you're requesting, and it gives a little background, and then you need to submit that before the Tuesday before.
Right.
So it wouldn't matter necessarily for that day, where it is, because if you think of something during that meeting, the way it's proposed, you need to wait till the next one to submit it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying I think that's what.
Like before the reports or the announcements, after the new business, but before you just get to the, in case you run out of time,
Where are we?
like after new business, but before reports or whatever that group of,
Before 10.
before 10.
Before number 10?
9 is,
That might be a good idea. And Rebecca, you had spoke once about, like, timeframes for that. I'm sure we can come up with, I don't know if it's based on how many proposals there are, or,
Oh, what, are you talking about whether there would be enough time on an agenda?
you had originally said maybe it's like a 10-minute period, like, where we discuss future items. If
Okay,
there's a lot, I don't know, I don't care if there's a limit, I just wanted to note that you had mentioned that once before.
okay.
I like it before 10. Trustee Mento, is that okay with you? So we can put it before 10?
Ten p.m.
Well, initially I thought someone was trying to be
I
funny.
know.
I was like, and then no one laughed, so
No.
so because we would be moving the consent agenda away, so I would list it after new business, but before report of, village officials.
Sounds good to me. Is there any other questions about future agenda items?
No.
Okay, so we'll move on to looking at the topics and where they would go, the recommendation of what staff has put together for us. Do you wanna go through each one, or do you guys each, I only have like a few that I wanna talk about, so, why don't we just start, Trustee Maher, do you have,
Go ahead.
okay, Amenta.
RFPs, I'm a little concerned about us not looking at RFPs, and then we go through the effort to do an RFP, and you come back with an agreement to approve, and we have, that's the first we've seen. Same with grants.
I had something on the RFPs as well, so when we were going through, maybe Mark can help me out here, but we were going through the purchasing policy, and Mike, you were on the committee as well. We'd gotten through the first step of adopting the policy, and then we were gonna look at, and I remember, Rebecca, when you came on, you were gonna look at standardizing a template for RFPs, just in general, some clauses that go into standard ones, so that
Yep.
we wouldn't reinvent the wheel every time. And then after that, there may have been discussion on evaluation, like is there a matrix, or is there any kind of evaluation criteria that would be common? So those were the three things that we mentioned that, we'd be working on, so until they're developed, or even just the template of the standard template, until that's developed and approved or signed off on by the board, I think it's really important that anything over 25,000 or whatever the 10,000 is for professional services, I think those should come. I would like to see them at the board, not on a consent agenda, but once we have a template for how these are gonna go forward, I'm fine with, I do agree with Trustee Amenta that it would, you might wanna put them on there at least so that we can pull them off if we have questions, and at least that we read them, because otherwise I've seen it happen, we'll get to contract and it's like, why isn't this included in the scope? Like, this was one of our main objectives, and, so I definitely would agree that RFPs are one of the things we talk about a lot.
We did do, an RFP template, and we
Okay.
brought that with a prior I did it a long time ago.
You did do it, I've never
Yeah,
seen it.
we've got a
Yeah,
template
I wanna
that
say it
starts
went to the
addressing
budget
some
and
of
finance
the legal,
committee, the standing committees.
some of the legal concerns and just background,
Yeah.
the issues of the village. If I recall the staff discussion, I think we felt it was important that the board see those
Mhm.
once they're in final draft form, to give the board an opportunity to provide input on additional considerations. It was our hope that we've done a good job and that it would be more informative than soliciting debate at the board level, but yeah, the intent is to bring them all to the board. So you'd see right up front what we're gonna send out for RFPs, and if you have any concerns for discussion, you could certainly pull them off consent agenda. You could certainly seek staff feedback prior to the board meeting as well, if you have specific items. But I think that's where we kind of left it in our organizational chart there.
Oh, for this chart?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the template though that she's referring to is one, we took it to the Budget and Finance Standing Committee a while back. It was in the packet. I can resend it to all of you
That'd be
guys.
great. Do you remember that, Mike, or maybe I wasn't, I was absent?
Oh, come on. It was
Oh,
a
I'm
good
sure
piece,
it
was a
wasn't.
good
I'm
document.
It's in there somewhere. Yeah, no, I remember, yeah, no.
I'm giving you a hard
It was
time.
all-
I'm giving you a hard time.
I just don't remember.
But yeah, cause it was
Well, I
like,
mean, you might be, is that the standard scope of service contract that you might be interchanging terms?
no, it
on?
was an RFP where it actually highlighted different areas because there are different ranges of RFPs, but it was like a lot of standard language that we would have in everything, and then like depending on, cause I was.
Well, I remember seeing it, but I don't
I
know
like
if it
highlighted
was.
sections like this may change based on, so review this.
I
or-
mean, I think the issue I was bringing out, it's not like an RFP for legal or engineering or, something that is a continuation of an ongoing service. But I'm talking like if we were to do an RFP for a parking study, for example.
Okay,
So, like bidding the vehicles, you don't,
Right.
No,
Yeah, it's not the
outside
routine.
services.
or,
Right.
well, yeah.
It's
Right.
professional services, really. Oh,
Well, I mean, if we have standard RFP language and we're bidding out something that is, an ongoing professional service, then we do it every year I don't think that's necessary that I review the RFP, but if it's like the RFP for for Wilson Drive, we did an RFP that was both the road design and continuation of the planning
Mhm.
efforts. So, that's a different kind of a RFP, that's something unique and unusual.
The non-normal.
But I also would say that sometimes those, like the financial consultant, although it's an ongoing, that we have financial consultant that we've had for years, if we do an RFP, I would like to see what the scope of services is that we're, so my interest is, I think if you break it down, it's not in purchases, it's in professional services over whatever the purchasing policy says, is it 10,000?
I believe that's the amount that requires, RFPs,
For a board, right? Board action.
I believe
But
so.
I mean, if we RFP it in 19, and then we RFP it again in 2022.
Same thing,
And
right?
it's the same thing, and we're not changing anything.
Right.
I don't know that we need to,
I'm just saying, like, if you pick certain professional services to exclude, like for finance, we haven't done one, so
Well, I think when
I
we
wanna
were
see it when it
counting our
comes.
contracts, I mean, we're talking 20 to 25 potential non-construction related
Right.
RFPs that are gonna roll over a 3 to 5 year period. So, I mean, this is not an overwhelming amount of
Right.
them. So I think our thought was to just share and
And maybe the template will address that, I understand, so that's just for the rolling over ones, and then what trustee Menta has said is like, for Oakland Avenue, so we're gonna do, a study for Oakland Avenue in 2019. Tyler, had brought to CDA, it would eventually, I don't know if it was just sitting there, if it was gonna come, but as an example, that was something that at the CDA really looked into, like, what do we really wanna be studying on Oakland Avenue? And are these boundaries correct? And so that's kind of where I think trustee Mentes is going, is, whenever you do a subject RFP, like parking or bike lanes or traffic study, I can guarantee we'd wanna see it. It's huge.
And all these other RFPs that are more normal or routine, we've never seen them before, so I think the first ones would be
Yeah.
worthwhile for us to.
This is a
see.
perfect discussion for me, cause actually as we speak, or earlier today, I was working on the RFP for our Shorewood Today magazine. And I plan on issuing that next month. So like that example, is that an RFP that you would wanna see before it's
Anything
issued?
really changing?
Well, I have another one to add to that.
Okay, cause no, I think that's what we're saying is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
good question. That was thinking of that one.
Yeah,
have we ever RFP'd that, we've RFP'd that contract before, last year.
well, last, like, now almost 2 years, it was just marketing and communication services in general, to have a marketing firm. That was separate from Shorewood Today.
Are you sure?
Have we ever RFP'd
I thought we
Shorewood
RFP'd
today?
Shore today.
I would have to take a look, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think we did last year, because it was,
Part of it.
mhm. So anyways, if we haven't, then we probably see it. Because like, we haven't seen RFPs for many contracts, but I'm pretty sure we did RFP, we've seen Shore Today. Is there?
I would
any-
have done it, and I don't remember doing an RFP for Shorewood Today. We didn't, because we did an RFP for, marketing, cause we changed firms.
Mhm.
Or, we still opened up for the firm to still do it, but they elected not, but we did not do an RFP for Shorewood Today.
I have another.
That's why we're doing Shorewood Today
Okay.
this year, because it hasn't been done.
Then I would say, yeah, I mean, if it's a first timer, if it's a continuing thing, that's the first time that we've ever seen it, I wouldn't be, it would be worth doing unless it's time sensitive for some reason.
We had one that left today for the alley program, design, you guys in your financial plan have certain alleys you were doing in 2019, in 2022, and they're all, it's a color-coded map, right?
Yeah.
I
So,
thought we did the design for 4
We
alleys
did the design
last
for
year.
4 alleys.
That was for the 2017 program.
yeah,
No,
this is
we
for
didn't, no, we
2019.
designed 4 alleys. We had we had like
Mhm, we did.
90,000 in design, and it was more than just the, well, maybe we did all 4
But
alleys.
did we do all 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is your
I think you
second
did.
go at it, so
Yeah,
we just, I mean, so that left today,
no.
so don't be upset if you haven't seen it.
Yep. That's
But they
great.
use the
I
template.
mean,
But
something
why-
like that.
Construction RFP.
But the
Something
question
like
would
that,
be-
I don't think we need to
I don't think we need to, as long as everybody has agreement of the 4 they picked.
That's been in your, I mean, in your long-range financial plan.
Plan, we discussed.
Did
it.
we pick
It's a
4
color-coded
years?
map that has by year, every 2 years.
Yeah.
I understand that. The only reason I mention that is, I'm not sure, so I'm just asking for confirmation, because we did, last year was the first time we increased it to 750,000, and the text right now that we've been providing in our packet does not reflect necessarily that 750 for the years out. So I'm just wondering if that map reflected 750 worth of alleys. Did it?
Yeah.
Okay, as long,
That
as
would
long,
be Margaret into that.
Then it's in your packet with the 2019 projects, materials.
Yeah.
that's hard, yeah, but I'm okay with that.
So what criteria are we gonna give staff to,
Right.
I mean, or do you just,
Well,
Try
if
to
I
work
could
it
just
out.
ask, am I hearing that there's a desire to not see certain RFPs? I mean, construction RFPs, I think, are a standalone, but for professional services, our intent was to bring them all. But I'm hearing feedback that you don't want to see them all, even if they're under a consent agenda.
Oh, no, that, not for me. For professional services, I don't feel comfortable yet. I think they should come to the board. They can go under consent agenda, and someone has a question, they can pull it. But at least we are reviewing them. The reason I said that is we just adopted our purchasing policy last year, and we really haven't RFP'd, many professional services under it yet. So we don't have a budget committee anymore, and so this is our committee. And if you wanna bring them to Cal, I guess that's okay too. It doesn't matter where they go, but they would have gone to committee. And until personally as a board member, I felt comfortable with how that was gonna shake out, and we went through a whole year of it, then we might be able to shift it off. But it's a new territory for us,
Hmm.
so. So until we've done it a couple of times, I think we need to keep it on as at least a consent agenda item.
Is that not what's been proposed?
No.
No.
So I think it's proposed RFP says village manager determines if the village board approval is needed, so it doesn't have to be on there.
Thank you.
And maybe it's just for those that are 10,000 and over, or that, you know, that kick in for, board approval. Cause I don't care about, like for instance, Rebecca, further in the agenda tonight, there's something on the agenda for, you know, say a $3,000 service, that wouldn't kick in the requirement to bring it to board, but,
No, and I was just doing that because
Yeah.
I
right.
like to talk.
Right, I'm just saying,
Who is this person?
Well, you know, I like to.
but
Good
maybe
idea.
it's professional services over that 10,000.
Well, I mean, this, you know, this says
Right, cause
Right.
that's not the review
500,000
level.
funded. Is it different from what's in here?
I don't have my board packet with
On the
me,
board,
just my count.
It does look the same, but the board package is 750.
I don't think.
Is that the long range plan?
Yeah.
The, probably the preceding page?
Sorry that he bring up the alley one, but it was confusing because last year was the first year we upped
Yeah,
it.
no, that's fine. I just wanna let you know that it left our
Good.
Public Works today though.
Just a
So
minute, is it the
if you're
preceding
wondering,
page in
oh,
that document?
As long as it's.
I didn't
covered,
understand
so-
that
Oh, I see,
you
okay.
wanted to see all these things.
So did that make sense, and does anyone disagree? So we have a purchasing policy, it says professional services over 10,000 need board approval
Yeah.
once they come back in. So I think before they go out, it might make sense for the first few months or a year, I don't know what that time frame is, but to continue to keep them on it, at least on consent agenda. Or maybe it goes to Cal only, I mean, we're not approving anything, right, we're just
Right, it'd
discussing.
be, yeah, that'd be good.
So it
Provide
might
some
be just-
direction.
Correct, just to a report, and we don't have to list them if we don't need
Mhm.
to discuss.
We can use the RFP I'm working on if we wanna review a template example. I'd be happy to do that.
I have a template.
Yeah, I'm using your template.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, instead of just seeing the template, this
Yeah.
is an actual example
An
of
example.
using the
Yeah, I think that's a
template.
great idea.
Yeah, the only, just know, because Shorewood today technically falls under the leadership committee for marketing. I need them to take a look at it first. So, that would probably be, I would have it ready, by the June 18th
Who's the
meeting.
board liaison for the marketing committee?
I think you appointed Tammy.
Oh, for sure today marketing, okay, so she.
Yeah, it's the same committee, yep.
Yep, thank
But
you.
I can send you the template in advance. Just to share.
Does anyone else have questions on that one?
No.
Mike, did you have another one?
Special privilege permit as administrative review.
Did you guys discuss grants? I know RFPs
Not yet.
and then grants got brought up. I
Oh,
would
I'm
like
sorry.
no, it's okay. I would
Okay.
like some direction on grants because I've been asking around.
Don't we approve grant awards? Doesn't the board approve grant awards?
Yeah.
Like to accept them?
Yeah.
Some require your approval,
Okay.
some don't.
Mm.
And so it was a question, I'm always asking Mark, I was like, Mark, I didn't see a policy on grants, so, what is that and how has that worked in the past? So if you wanna, some grants are more regimented, some require us to get your approval and conditioned approval prior to submitting. Others sometimes come up that are smaller amounts that are out of the blue, like, oh, we gotta make this deadline,
Yeah.
let's get in and get it done. Others do require your acceptance by resolution, many of the DNR grants, for example. Most don't require your acceptance unless they're gonna be a state or federal grant. There was one, for example, that was submitted on last week or 2 weeks ago to AARP for, some, chess tables to be put, and they were in River Park, but also in some of the public school land, we were just a small portion of it. But my question was, for the staff, which was, have people, like, has the board been included in this in the past? If not,
My only hesitation, because otherwise it's like, why, we're just getting more money, which is great, but grants come with tasks associated.
right,
And so.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it just depends, and I don't know how to make that distinction, and maybe you can help, but I would be concerned if we were doing a grant that's gonna take away 20% of Leanne's time, or, I don't know what that threshold is, but that staffing level of what it takes, like, I know Tyler went out for, say Safe Kids grant?
That was North Shore Health Department.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah.
just remember you being on it
Yeah.
as a point person, okay. So anyways, we went out for it, and so if we were applying for a grant on behalf of one neighborhood, rather than, how do we pick that one neighborhood? So just, there's some things that, small grants like, oh, there's a stormwater grant out there, and it's general, and, should we take advantage of the money for a program we already have? Yes, but if it's new and it's requiring staff time of some level, I don't know what it is, or it's picking a neighborhood to implement a traffic thing and not another neighborhood, you might want input.
Yeah, so I hear where you're coming from. So an example with the ARP grant is that it ended up not really requiring a lot of our staff time other than review. But for me, it's when those things come in, it's also a process of, so in this case, Public Works said they would not be able to do installation. That would be fully contracted. It was 100% funded grant, so we had no percentage of contribution. We wouldn't be doing installation. That would be the person who would be purchasing. We would be providing the specifications for how install would go.
For what?
Where-
A chess table.
Okay, so that's smaller.
Yeah, apparently they applied for the same thing the prior year, so they were refurbishing an application that had already been submitted. But for me internally, it's also a process of accountability, which is, this is being proposed. Who will be managing the grant?
Right.
Who is filing the documentation, and what are our roles and responsibilities? So that's why I was asking, which isn't your task to do, more so mine, but sometimes, like you said, it brings into the fold something else, and is that something that we wanna do? And I'm not trying to overcomplicate it, I'm just
Or
trying to
what
be
if a
We
clear.
committee-
also don't have, we don't have a lot of parks and they're small, and so
Right.
even though like the ping pong tables, was a decision about, do we want them and where do we want them and are they gonna be used? And so there's also,
The school.
School.
there's one at River
River
Park.
Park, there's one, yeah.
I've never seen it
That's neat.
used.
Learning
Yeah.
moment for me.
So I
That
mean,
was through the
especially
amenity
with
fund.
parks, it's taking up real estate, so.
Mhm. Another good point.
Or like grant for art, right? Like, do we want, all of a sudden we have this art piece in the, say, Atwater, like,
Again, I'm
so what's your
asking-
recommendation?
Well, I didn't know what, I don't know if you guys have had this discussion before, so I just knew that I wanted to talk about it. Cause more than anything, it's more so to be on the same page. Just a matter of form, like I just would prefer, because I tend to want it all